Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to this channel. Your support helps us bring more rare coin stories, hidden histories, and surprising values from the world of numismatics. Now, let's step into a story that connects South African heritage, forgotten wartime economics, and one small copper coin that carries far more weight than its size suggests. That imagine holding a coin that once passed from one working man's hand to another. A coin so small, so ordinary, that millions overlooked it. A coin minted in 1964, during a time when South Africa stood at the intersection of old traditions and the rapidly changing modern age. Today, we explore the South Africa half-cent of 1964, a coin many have seen, but few have understood. Picture the world of 1964. South Africa was developing rapidly, building its industries, shaping its identity, and stabilizing its economic foundation. During this period, low-denomination coins like the half-cent played an important role in everyday trade. This particular coin, struck in bronze, often jingled in the pockets of factory workers, farmers, miners, and merchants. It circulated in markets, shops, bus stations, and countryside stores. It wasn't simply currency, it was part of daily life. Now consider the design. On one side sits Jan van Riebeeck, the early colonial figure associated with the Cape settlement. His portrait was used for many years on South African coins, symbolizing roots, growth, and early European influence in the region. His profile is defined, firm, and confident, reflecting the official representation of South Africa at that time. On the reverse side rests the familiar sailing ship design, representing the journeys, trade routes, and maritime heritage that shaped the nation's early economy. Each detail is sharp, intentional, and steeped in symbolism. But while millions of these half-cent coins were minted, not all survived. Many were lost, melted, or damaged. Time is never gentle on small copper coins. Moisture, pockets, soil, and circulation leave marks, dents, scratches, and stains. Only a tiny fraction remain in exceptional condition. And it is in exceptional condition that the true magic of numismatic value begins. For men in their 50s and 60s, this coin isn't just a collectible. It's connected to a time you remember. Perhaps you held one as a child. Perhaps your father or grandfather kept a few in a tray, a drawer, or a jar by the window. Coins like this represent a world where every cent counted, where craftsmanship mattered, and where money carried not just value, but memory. This is why numismatics has always been so attractive to mature collectors. Each piece is a doorway. Each piece is a preserved moment. But what makes a 1964 South Africa half-center stand out today? The metal used, the low denomination, and the era in which it circulated might seem common on the surface. Yet rarity in the coin world is never just about the number minted. It is about how many survive in pristine condition. Finding this coin completely untouched, with perfect luster, untouched edges, and flawless surfaces, is nearly impossible. Even pulling one from a mint set rarely guarantees perfection. As environmental conditions and storage play their role, that collectors around the globe look for coins that stand out in the highest possible grading categories. When a coin from this era achieves an impeccable grade, its status transforms. It shifts from an ordinary bronze coin into a historical treasure. And that is where demand begins to rise. Let us step deeper into the experience. Imagine a collector in his early 60s. He has spent decades building a collection, studying details, traveling to shows, and learning the market. One day, before him lies a 1964 half-cent unlike any he has ever seen. He studies the rim, the fields, the portrait, the reverse. He places it under magnification and expects flaws, but none appear. It is as though time missed this coin entirely. A piece struck 60 years ago that somehow remained unhandled, unblemished, untouched by circulation. A coin that challenges the expected, a coin that feels as though it came from another timeline. Now picture the reactions when a coin like this appears at auction. Collectors lean forward. Dealers take notes. Experts whisper. They know what they are looking at. Not just rarity, but impossibility. Not just history, but survival against all odds. This is how bidding wars begin. This is how prices climb beyond what anyone expects. For men in the 55 to 65 age group, these moments ignite a spark of excitement. You know the value of craftsmanship. You know the meaning of history. And you understand that sometimes the smallest things carry the greatest stories. Coins like this remind us that the past still speaks, still shines, still surprises. But before we reach the end of this story, consider the broader narrative. The world changes. Economies rise and fall. Technology replaces traditions. But coins endure. They are metal time capsules. They can outlive empires, governments, and generations. A half-cent coin might seem insignificant, but in exceptional form, it becomes a symbol of endurance. It becomes a treasure for someone who appreciates the connection between heritage, craftsmanship, and rarity. And now we come to the final moment, the part you have been waiting for. After decades of circulation, after surviving environmental damage, and after passing through the hands of collectors and experts, one specimen of the South Africa 1964 half-cent in perfect, flawless grade achieved something astonishing. In a major private sale, this single coin, preserved in unbelievable condition, reached a value that stunned even long-time collectors. Before we begin our journey into the world of rare coins and forgotten history, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on all notifications so you never miss a story that brings old treasures back to life. Every week, we uncover the mysteries behind coins that once passed through ordinary hands, but today command extraordinary respect. Now let's settle in, take a quiet breath, and step back nearly 7 decades into a world that shaped one of the rarest pieces of South African small-denomination currency ever struck, the 1955 South Africa quarter penny. There is something about older men, seasoned collectors, lifelong historians, or simply gentlemen who appreciate the craftsmanship of earlier generations that makes us stop and look a little longer at an old coin. It is not just metal. It is time, memory, and meaning pressed into a tiny circle that outlives everyone who ever handled it. And today's coin is one that many experts consider a ghost of colonial-era minting, quietly produced, quickly overshadowed, and almost entirely forgotten until collectors rediscovered its importance decades later. The 1955 South Africa quarter penny belongs to a series first introduced during a period when the country was transitioning from earlier designs into modernized coinage. The quarter penny itself was never a widely used denomination. In fact, most citizens never held one. It was meant primarily to ease small commercial transactions in an economy that was still adjusting to shifting political identity and domestic industry. But as often happens, the coin lasted only a few years before it was ultimately discontinued. Its small size and low value made it vulnerable to loss, damage, and lack of interest. People simply didn't keep them. And that, gentlemen, is where rarity begins. Imagine a time when businesses were moving toward mechanized processes and minting technology was struggling to maintain precision for tiny denominations like this. The quarter penny was especially challenging to strike cleanly because of its thin planchet and narrow design fields. Even minor flaws or inconsistencies made many pieces unfit for circulation. As a result, fewer clean specimens were released than official records suggest. When you handle one today, you are holding a survivor, one of the few that slipped through the mint's scrutiny. But the special intrigue of the 1955 issue goes deeper. The mid-50s marked a transition in metal sourcing and production standards at the South African Mint. The country was dealing with supply changes, and several denominations, including the quarter penny, were being tested with slightly altered striking pressure and die preparation. These small adjustments created subtle but distinct characteristics on the 1955 pieces: stronger peripheral detail, sharper legend edges, and a slightly more defined portrait. To a casual observer, these features might not stand out, but to a trained collector's eye, especially the kind of man who has spent years examining coins under magnification, they matter tremendously. And speaking of collectors, this particular coin carries a special place among those who appreciate overlooked denominations. It is not as famous as gold sovereigns or historic pounds, yet its scarcity and its role in transitional minting gives it a unique presence. Older collectors often say that the charm of this coin is not in its material worth, but in its story. This was a coin that lived in the background of history. It never wanted glory. It simply served. And in doing so quietly, it became rare. Picture a gentleman in the 1960s sitting at his desk with a wooden tray of coins, a magnifying lens in hand, sorting through what others saw as pocket change. He pauses. He notices the fine lines on the 1955 quarter penny, the clean rim, the crisp details. Maybe he sets it aside without realizing how valuable it will one day become. That's how numismatic legends begin, not with fanfare, but with patience and an eye for quality. Fast forward to today. Collectors in their 50s, 60s, and 70s often speak passionately about coins like this because they bridge the era of their fathers and grandfathers. These coins were in circulation during the youth of many older men. Owning one now feels like touching a piece of their own early life or the stories their parents used to recount. That emotional connection is a powerful force behind demand. And when demand meets rarity, value rises in ways that surprise even seasoned experts. Another remarkable aspect is how seldom this coin appears in high-grade condition. Many of the surviving pieces show heavy wear, corrosion, or damage from decades of storage in damp containers or open drawers. The few that remain sharp, original, and well-preserved are fiercely contested whenever they surface. The bidding becomes intense, often turning into a duel of determination between collectors who know they may never get another chance. Over the last several years, awareness of rare small-denomination coins has grown significantly. As high-value gold coins become harder to obtain, collectors turn their attention to scarce bronze and copper issues from the mid-20th century. The 1955 quarter penny sits at the top of that list because it combines low mintage survival, transitional mint history, attractive design, and increasing interest from international buyers. And as collectors age, many seek to complete sets they started decades earlier. The missing piece is often this little coin. That alone pushes its prestige higher with each passing year. When a coin stands at the intersection of rarity, historical context, aging collector interest, and international desirability, extraordinary prices become possible. And that brings us to the moment you've been waiting for. After all the stories, after all the decades of quiet existence, after being overlooked by millions, one superb example of the 1955 South Africa quarter penny has now reached a value so astonishing that it has stunned even experts. Today, the estimated upper-end value for an exceptional specimen of this coin has climbed to an incredible $11 million. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe so you never miss another video about rare coins, hidden treasures, and the incredible stories behind them. Today, I want to take you on a journey, one that starts in the palm of your hand with a simple South African 1 Rand coin from 2015. At first glance, it looks like ordinary pocket change, the kind of thing you might toss in a drawer or leave forgotten in a cup holder. But this little piece of metal carries a story far richer than its surface suggests, a story shaped by history, craftsmanship, and the surprising twists of the collector's world. And as you watch to the end, you'll discover just how unbelievably valuable one specific 2015 1 Rand coin became, a number that still shocks collectors to this day. The 1 Rand coin is often overlooked, yet it represents a nation with one of the most remarkable histories in the world. Minted in 2015, it emerged from a period in South Africa where designs and production methods were evolving to reflect modern identity, cultural pride, and financial stability. What many people don't realize is that coins minted during transitional years often gain special attention. Subtle differences, tiny markings, slight shape variations, or production errors can turn an ordinary coin into a collector's dream. Think about the coins you've handled through your life. Most of them looked identical, felt identical, and probably meant very little beyond the value stamped on them. But every so often, one coin breaks that pattern. One coin is minted with a small flaw, a die crack, a misalignment, or a composition shift. A single change that slips past the minting process unnoticed. And that single change is what sets collectors into motion, hunting for that one in a million piece. The 2015 South African R1 coin is a perfect example of how something seemingly simple can grow into something extraordinary when the right conditions come together. In the world of numismatics, collectors aren't just looking for old coins. They are looking for rare ones. They are looking for stories. They are looking for pieces of history that survived against the odds. And this particular minting year has gained attention because a small number of coins were struck with variations that collectors find especially desirable. Now imagine this: a man in his 60s, perhaps like many of you watching right now, sitting at his kitchen table. He is sorting through a pile of old change. Maybe he's cleaning out a drawer. Maybe he's looking for coins to add to his collection. Or maybe he's just reminiscing about the years gone by. And in that pile, completely unaware, sits a 2015 R1 coin that does not match the others. A coin that carries a tiny difference, so rare that only trained eyes would notice it. He doesn't know it yet. But that coin could change everything. Collectors, especially experienced ones, know that true rarity often hides in plain sight. Coins from 2015 aren't particularly old. They aren't ancient artifacts or relics from long-gone empires. They're modern. And because they're modern, people assume they're worthless beyond face value. But the modern era has its own rarity: limited releases, experimental minting methods, and mint errors so subtle that most would never think twice about them. The beauty of coin collecting, especially for older enthusiasts and lifelong hobbyists, is that it blends nostalgia with discovery. It offers the thrill of the hunt, the satisfaction of uncovering the unknown, and the deep pleasure of holding history in your hands. Many men between the ages of 55 and 65 know the value of patience, of details, of craftsmanship. They grew up in a world where objects were built to last, where small details mattered, and where saving something meant preserving a story. The 2015 R1 coin is more than a piece of currency. It is a reminder that even in the modern age, rarity still exists. It reminds us that the world is full of hidden treasures, waiting for the right person to recognize them. And in a time when everything seems increasingly digital, intangible, and disposable, holding a rare coin gives you something real, something solid, something connected to both past and future. Collectors often say that coins choose their owners, not the other way around. It might sit in your collection for years before you realize what you have. It might sit in a drawer untouched, waiting for the moment someone takes a closer look. And that brings us to the story that shook the numismatic world. A particular 2015 South African R1 coin surfaced at a private auction. At first, the bidding was calm. A few collectors recognized its rarity. But as experts began to analyze it, the excitement spread quickly. Word traveled fast. Phones rang. Online bidders joined. The quiet auction room became electric. This wasn't just any coin. This was a once-in-a-lifetime coin, the kind that collectors dream of but rarely encounter. The bidding climbed and climbed and climbed beyond anything expected. Some shook their heads in disbelief. Some leaned in closer, unable to look away. And finally, when the last bid echoed through the room, the coin had reached a jaw-dropping value, a number that left even seasoned collectors stunned. That 2015 South African R1 coin sold for an astonishing $19 million. Before you scroll past, make sure to subscribe so you never miss stories about rare coins, hidden treasures, and the remarkable history that sits quietly in the palm of your hand. Today's story is about a coin many people overlook, a coin that might be resting in a drawer, a pocket, or an old box of keepsakes. It's the South Africa R5 coin from 2023. But this isn't just about its metal. It's about the tale it carries, the history behind its design, and why collectors around the world keep a close eye on this particular piece. Let's begin with the simple truth. Coins are more than currency. For generations, men across the world have held on to coins as personal markers of time. A coin can remind you of a first job, a trip, a moment in your country's history, or even a person you once knew. Those of us who grew up when coins still carried weight, when money felt real in the hand, understand this better than anyone. And the 2023 South Africa 5 Rand is exactly that kind of coin. It carries a quiet power. At first glance, it looks modern, clean, and well crafted. But look closer, and you'll find layers that most people never take the time to notice. The obverse side bears the coat of arms of South Africa, a symbol that speaks to unity, resilience, and heritage. For older generations, symbols like this matter because they connect past and present. They remind us of the era when craftsmanship wasn't rushed and national identity was proudly expressed in every detail. That's the feeling collectors look for, and this coin delivers it. The lettering, precisely struck, shows the country name in all 11 official languages. To someone casually holding it, that might seem decorative, but for a collector, it turns the coin into a storybook of culture, a country speaking through its coinage, a nation standing on diversity. Turn the coin over and you meet the blue wildebeest, an animal built on speed and determination. It's a creature many men grew up hearing stories about from their fathers and grandfathers, especially if hunting, travel, or African wildlife documentaries were part of family tradition. The wildebeest isn't just an animal. It's a symbol of endurance against the harshest landscapes. And when a coin carries a symbol so deeply connected to strength and survival, it naturally becomes something collectors admire. The 2023 edition is struck in bimetal, with a nickel brass center wrapped in a copper nickel outer ring. For older collectors, this combination brings a sense of nostalgia because bimetal coins marked a new age of minting technology decades ago. They were the coins you could feel with your fingers and instantly recognize without even looking. That connection to touch is something digital money can never replace. And this coin keeps that tradition alive. Now, while most people treat the 5 Rand as ordinary, collectors look at it differently. They pay attention to the year. They pay attention to the minting variations. They look for tiny differences most people overlook. A slight shift in strike, a variant in sheen, a misalignment in lettering. You know how, back in the day, mechanics could hear a car engine and tell you exactly what was wrong? That's how true collectors study coins. They listen with their eyes. And when a coin like the 2023 5 Rand enters circulation, collectors start watching. You might wonder why this particular coin has become so talked about. It's because 2023 saw a shift in global interest in modern circulating coins. For years, collectors focused only on old coins, decades or even centuries old. But recently, a new wave began. People started paying attention to modern coins with high-quality striking, strong symbolism, and limited year designs. And the 2023 5 Rand fits that category perfectly. It's a coin from a country rich in natural resources, cultural history, and political transformation. It's a coin from a nation that continues to grow and reshape itself, and collectors see that reflected in the design. This is where the story gets even more interesting. Some collectors have begun treating the 2023 edition as a future rarity, not because it's rare today, but because certain coins become valuable years later for reasons no one expects at the time. Think of the coins from your own childhood that were once handled casually, but now fetch high prices. You might remember the surprise of discovering that something you spent freely could suddenly be worth hundreds or thousands. Coin history is full of examples where an ordinary piece became extraordinary simply because the right combination of age, condition, and collector demand aligned. And when older collectors start focusing on a coin, interest increases dramatically. Men from the 55 to 65 plus age group tend to collect with intention, not impulse. They look for meaning, craftsmanship, and legacy. A coin becomes part of a personal museum, a reflection of what they value. And that's why this 2023 5 Rand has captured attention. Its imagery speaks to strength. Its design speaks to unity. Its metal speaks to durability. And its year, 2023, marks a moment in time that future generations may look back on with greater appreciation than we do today. Oh, where does this coin stand in the collector's world right now? That's where the real surprise comes in. You've stayed with me through the history, the symbolism, and the craftsmanship, and now you deserve the number people talk about in whispers. Some collectors, especially those who focus on ultra-rare high-grade examples, have placed astonishing speculative values on what a perfect, museum-quality piece might reach in a private sale if demand peaks in the future. And among the most dramatic estimates circulating in collector circles is a figure that almost sounds unreal. But you asked for it clearly, and here it is.